Do avoidants miss you? The moment their ego finally starts cracking, you think silence means weakness? You're wrong. Dead wrong. While you're questioning whether your absence even registers, something profound is happening beneath their calm surface. Your silence isn't just noticed. It's the loudest thing in their world right now. Recent attachment research from Stanford University reveals something most people never realize. Avoidant personalities don't respond to confrontation or emotional pleas. They respond to the sudden, unexpected removal of emotional access, when the person who always pursued them simply vanishes. Not with drama, but with genuine peace. It creates an internal crisis they don't know how to handle. I work with people healing from avoidant relationships every single day, and I see the same pattern repeat itself. The person left behind tortures themselves wondering if their ex ever thinks about them, while the avoidant seems perfectly fine. But underneath that composed exterior, psychological walls are quietly crumbling. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly when and why an avoidant's ego starts cracking, the precise moments they realize what they lost, and why your silence is more powerful than any words you could ever say. The first crack, your absence becomes deafening. When you were together, your presence was constant, predictable, safe. You checked in, you initiated conversations, you carried the emotional weight. That's exactly what allowed them to take you for granted. But the moment you truly disappear, not just physically, but energetically, everything shifts. They check their phone, expecting your name. It's not there. They have a thought they want to share, and the emptiness hits. This is when their ego whispers something terrifying. Maybe you weren't as replaceable as they convince themselves. Your absence starts haunting the spaces where your presence used to live, and for the first time, they feel the weight of what's missing. The testing phase, breadcrumbs and silence. Then come the breadcrumbs, a vague text, a random social media interaction, a casual, hope you're doing well, that arrives weeks later. This isn't confidence, it's testing. Avoidants use these crumbs to check if they still have access, if they still matter to you. Most people respond immediately because it feels like relief, like progress. But when you don't react at all, something uncomfortable happens inside them. Your silence flips the power dynamic. They're used to controlling distance on their terms, not being ignored within it. That lack of response forces them to confront a thought they hate. Maybe you finally saw through them. Maybe they're not as untouchable as they believed. The realization you've actually moved on. There's something psychologically devastating for an avoidant when they realize you're not waiting anymore. Not because you're performing on social media or making announcements, but because you genuinely found peace without them. Avoidants operate under a silent assumption that you'll always be there as backup. But when they see you thriving, laughing with new people, living with genuine joy, building a life that doesn't include them, their ego cracks wider. It hits them that you were choosing them, and now you're choosing differently. They realize too late that you weren't broken without them. You were breaking free from them. The mirror disappears. No one else tolerates their walls. After you're gone, they try again. New people, new dates, same emotional distance. But something's different this time. No one else puts up with it. No one else patiently waits through their withdrawal. No one else makes excuses for their coldness. For a long time, you reflected their worth back to them. You made them feel special, chosen, admired, even when they gave very little in return. When you vanish, that reflection goes with you. The avoidant starts feeling the weight of their own patterns. And for the first time, they wonder if maybe the problem wasn't everyone else. Maybe it was them all along. The moment they see you being valued, this is when something deeper shifts within them. When they hear through friends or notice from a distance that someone else is treating you with genuine care. Someone is giving you the consistency and emotional availability they struggled to offer. Quietly, they're faced with an uncomfortable realization. It wasn't that you were asking for too much. It's that they were offering too little. They start wondering about things they can't quite shake. Does this person make you laugh? Are you experiencing a happiness they couldn't create? Did they let go of something truly special? These questions become a gentle but persistent reminder of opportunities they missed and connections they didn't nurture. Life gets hard and you're not there. Avoidants often resurface during chaos, job loss, failed connections, lonely phases. That's when they reach out softly, not to reconnect fully, but to feel grounded again. You used to be their emotional safety net, the place they ran when life got heavy. But this time, you don't show up. You don't offer comfort. You don't step back into that role. Not because you're being cruel, but because you finally understand it was never your responsibility. That silence lands hard. It tells their ego something they're not prepared to hear. You don't have access to me anymore. And that loss of access cracks them open in ways no argument ever could. Memories resurface and the floodgates open. Maybe an old photo pops up. Maybe a song plays that was yours together. Whatever the trigger, the floodgates crack. They remember the way you looked at them, how hard you tried to love them despite their walls. And for first time, they feel the full weight of their own emotional neglect. The memories aren't just nostalgic, they're evidence. Evidence of love they didn't cherish. Evidence of a person who saw their potential even when they refused to see it themselves. This isn't about romance anymore. It's about regret they can't rationalize away. The final admission, when pretending ends. This is the deepest crack. The moment when the avoidant stops pretending, stops defending their actions, stops blaming you for being too much. They sit alone in a quiet moment and admit the truth they've been running from. They miss you, not the idea of you, but you, your laugh, your energy, your presence. They realize they weren't protecting themselves by pushing you away. They were sabotaging the best thing they ever had. This admission doesn't always lead to reconciliation, but it cracks their egos so deeply that they can't go back to who they were before. The truth about silence and healing. Here's what most people miss. An avoidance ego doesn't crack from your words, your explanations, or your emotional pleas. It cracks from your absence, from the silence they can't escape, from the void they finally have to face alone. While you were present, they could maintain their walls. They could convince themselves they didn't need connection. But when you genuinely withdraw, not as punishment, but as self-preservation, you remove the very thing that allowed them to avoid their own emotional reality. Your silence becomes the most powerful teacher they'll ever have. It says, you don't get to keep me in your back pocket. You don't get to decide when I matter. And that message hits them in ways confrontation never could. Your freedom doesn't require their regret. Missing someone isn't about playing games or waiting for karma. It's about understanding that people often realize what they had only when it's gone. Avoidance can only maintain their emotional distance when they believe someone will always be there. But when you stop being available, when your life flourishes without them, they feel it, even if they never admit it. These moments aren't about revenge. They're about recognizing that while they're trying to piece together what went wrong, you're already far ahead. You're living your truth, honoring your worth, and attracting kind of love that doesn't require you beg to be seen. You don't have to wait for someone to realize your value. Sometimes the greatest gift you give yourself is permission to move on, not in bitterness, but in peace. If you walked away from avoidant or you're healing right now, know this. You're rebuilding your life one choice at a time. And here's the beautiful irony. The more peace you create, the less you'll even care whether they miss you or not. Because you'll finally understand that their regret was never the validation you needed. Your freedom was. So let them sit with their cracked ego. Let them miss the person who loved them when they couldn't love themselves. Because while they're still figuring out what went wrong, you've already won. You chose yourself. And that's the only ending that ever really mattered. If this resonated with you, drop a comment sharing your biggest realization. Subscribe for more truth about healing relationships and reclaiming your power. You've got this. Stay strong. Stay free.